So in this video, I'll be demonstrating how to use Pine Labs SDK for payments and other things. Now, what I have here is I have a sample project which I've created for this demo, and I have also downloaded the SDK for Pine Labs here. Now, in order for us to use this SDK, we first need to take the SDK and put it uh, in the project root folder, and I'll just extract it here, extract all. So there we go. Now I have the extracted SDK here. Now, in order for us to use the methods which the SDK provides, we need to first include it in our project. And in order for us to do that, first we need to go into the SDK folder and then go into bin, debug, net 7.0, and then this is the file that we want to include in our project. Now let's go ahead. So for this demo, I'll be using JetBrains IDE, which is JetBrains Rider for .NET. Now you can use any IDE for that matter. It doesn't really matter, though you should know or know how to do the same steps which I'll be doing here in this video in your preferred IDE. That's the only thing. Now, let's first include the SDK which we have extracted in our project. So I'll go here. In the JetBrains ID, we need to right-click on the Dependencies tab here, click on References, and then we can add from, and then select the DLL file which we want to include. So I'll select this DLL file which I showed you earlier, and I'll open it. Now, that will add the SDK in my project, and there you can see it. It says Pine Labs SDK. Now, what we have is I have two classes which I have created for this project. One is my main file, and one is the file where I have done the integration for this SDK. Now let's close this. And in this main file, I don't have much. I've just created the instance of my second class, and I'm just passing it the arguments which I get from the console here. Now let's talk about the main file, which is this integration file. In this file, in order for us to use any of the methods which the Pine Labs SDK provides, we first need to use the SDK here. And we can do that by using the using keyword and then Pine Labs SDK. Now, the next thing is the Pine Labs SDK actually provides three main classes. One is the payment class, the other one is EMI class, and the third one is hash class. So the payment class is actually used for making new payments and fetching the status of any existing transaction. The EMI class is used for fetching offers on any given product or set of products for EMI. And the hash class is used for hash verification. Now I'll talk about what this hash verification actually means. But for now, we don't need to worry about this class. Let's talk about how we can create a payment link for our end customers so that they can pay using the Pine Labs checkout. Now, what I have here is I have created an instance of the payment class, and in the constructor we have to pass the merchant ID, the merchant access code, and the merchant secret. All three will be provided by the Pine Labs team. And The last argument is actually the environment which you will be using. Set it to true if you want to use the test environment, and set it to false if you want to do the prod transaction. Now let's talk about. I'll come to this EMI class in a minute, but let's first talk about the create transaction or create payment link actually method. So I have a create order method in which I'm using the create method on the payment class instance to create a link using which I can then make the transaction. In the create method, it takes the following arguments. It takes the transaction data, it takes the customer data, billing data, shipping data, UDF data, which is just optional. You can pass it anything you want, and then the payment modes. And what I have here is, as you can see, I'm creating an instance of the transaction data class, and it contains the following fields: transaction ID, amount, and callback. All three which you can set according to your needs. And then the customer data contains email ID, first name, last name, mobile number, and etc. And then you can select any of the payment methods, including cards, BNPL, UPI, and so on and so forth. Now, do keep in mind when you create instances of these class, the ID will automatically give you auto completion for the fields that it contains, so that it's easy for you to know what exactly you need to pass. Now, once that is done, the create method, once called, will give you a URL in return, which I'll be showing you in a minute. Now, let's talk about the second thing, which the payment class provides, is the fetch functionality. So, fetch you can use in order for you to check status of any particular given transaction. Now, what I have is I am calling the fetch method with the transaction ID of a transaction which I have done previously and the type of the transaction which it was. And in return, it will give me the status of that particular transaction. So we will see the response in a minute. Let's also talk about the EMI class. Now, the EMI class also takes exactly the same parameters in the constructor: the merchant ID, the merchant access code, and it actually doesn't need the secret only. And then you can pass true and false whether or not you're using the production environment or test environment. Now, in order for us to fetch offers for EMI on any particular product, we have to uh, call the calculate EMI method on the EMI class instance. What I have here is you need to pass first the total of the amount, like there can be multiple product details. So we need to sum up all the product amount of all the products which we are including in this, and then we need to pass it here. And then we can create an array of all the product details or all the products which I have created here, as you can see, and you can pass it here as the second argument. Now, in return, it will give you offers on those products for EMI. I'll show you that in a minute. Now, the last thing that the SDK offers is the hash verification using the hash class. Now, hash verification is basically when you get a response from the SDK, it also gives you a hash of that response, which then you can use this method to verify the response that you have received, so that you are sure that that nobody has done any tampering with the response, and you're getting the actual original response. So just so this verify hash method takes the first argument is the hash itself, which you got from the request or the response, and then you just pass it the entire response as it is without the type of the hash and the hash itself. So there are two other fields apart from the entire response which you see here, and those two fields are which are basically the type of hash and the hash itself. And then the last argument that you need to pass it is the merchant secret, using which it will create the hash again and then verify it. So this method only returns either true or false, depending on if the hash is verified or not. So let's see this in action now. I'll build this. Okay, we're getting some error. Yeah, but let me just show you actually how to do this. So if I go here, if I go into this, 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 and okay, sorry, it was in bin. So yeah, release, and then this, and there you can see that I have executable file. If I open my terminal, if I call it Pine Labs.net sample, as you can see that I have the following flags, which I will show each flag to demonstrate each of the methods that I have here. The create order, the fetch order, the EMI calculator, and the verify hash itself. So each of these flags represent each of the methods which I showed you just now. The create, so I will call the create one first. There you go. And as you can see that it has given me a token, a URL, and the status of the request that I sent. So using this URL, you can make the payment. Now let's talk about the second method, which is the fetch method. So if I call the fetch method, it gives me the status of that particular transaction ID which I have passed here. For this particular transaction ID, it is giving me the status. So as you can see, it says PPC transaction response message is success. So my transaction was successful. Now, the third method is the EMI method. So let's call that. As you can see, for the product that I have provided it, like this one, it is giving me all the offers for EMIs which I can use and show it to the customer. As you can see, this is the response you will get. And the last one is the hash verification. So if I call that hash method, it simply returns me true because the hash that I provided and the response I provided matches, and this is the original response from Pine Labs end, and that's why I'm getting a true response. So that should be it. Those are all the methods and everything provided in the Pine Labs SDK. If you have any other queries or any other questions, you can connect with the support team of Pine Labs and share your feedback. Thank you.